And often we choose a metaphor to signify what it means to be in existence, to be moving, progressing, hopefully, and discovering who we are. And the metaphor I decided to choose was we're on a journey. And our role is pilgrims. Oh. Now, a pilgrim is going towards something. He or she is not quite sure, but they want to. They somehow have granted it enormous weight and value, but they've never tasted it yet. So they're not sure. And like any journey, when you don't know exactly the full map, you will sometimes wander off the path. You will hit cul-de-sacs. You will discover things don't quite work out as anticipated. But of course, there are two things that have to be implanted if we're going to succeed. One of which most Americans do, but they neglect the second one. You have to have goals. You have to decide. What is it you want to do with your energy? What is it do you want to express with the talents you may possess? What are your gifts? Which ones can you educate? You go to school, you get a degree, you get a certificate. Now what? You see yourself at a certain status, a certain level in your profession. Wonderful, that's your goal. You have a family, that's your goal. But there's still something missing. It's called aim. Goals are time-stamped. Goals can be attained sometimes in a very short period of time. We can acquire them. We can put them aside. We can let them go. We can decide that's enough and go on. But an aim is something very different. An aim speaks to something beyond time, and that's what makes it so curious, as Phil would say. The aim takes us beyond time. We suspect it. We're not quite sure. And so we build stories about it, and we call them myths. And that's really the function of the myth. Tell a story that takes us beyond time and space and the mundane that we find so much in our life. And sometimes we have to even create our own myth. It's not false. It's a different kind of truth that impels us, that compels us, that makes us reach out beyond the ordinary, so that we even sometimes have to face against society, the conventionality of things. You and I are pilgrims of self-discovery. We want to know, like the child of 2, you don't have to encourage him to look at life. If anything, you have to pull him back. He's out there tasting everything, putting the whole world into his mouth if he could. He wants to know. She wants to know. Because you and I come in with 2 main qualities. The first one is amnesia. Who am I? Where am I going? What's it all about, Alfie? Oh, boy. You keep thinking, wow, this ain't working out. I just don't know. We have this terrible amnesia. It's this plight that we're in. But we're given something, a sword to cut through that amnesia. And that sword is your thrust towards life. You want to know. Knowledge is a mystery when you think about it. Those of you who are dedicated to the various sciences, and by the way, all the sciences in the great Greek tradition belong to philosophy. Sciences were the particular ways in which you attain the end of philosophy. Oh, I like that approach. In philosophy, Philos and Sophia, the love of wisdom. But what is wisdom? Wisdom is twofold. Wisdom in the Greek meant to know the order of things, but not at the level of the biologist or the mathematician or the chemist. No, to know the order of things as the gods know them. And that's the way Plato calls it. Plato asserts, wisdom is the knowledge that the gods possess. That's what we want. What a beautiful metaphor. The knowledge of the gods. And so we have this urging to know, to explore, to taste, to feel. It's irrepressive. We can't live without it. If we do, we will go down. When you think about it, what is the worst form of ignorance? I submit it's sadness. Sadness. Because what happens in sadness? You pull back from life. You dismiss the beauty that's there. Slowly your eyes change. You can no longer see it. And that's the sad thing. The sad thing of all. And suddenly you need something to awaken you, to bring the light back in. Nature doesn't leave you an orphan. Events will occur. People will come into your life. Even a book may fall into your lap. And suddenly you begin to think, well, maybe my sadness is not the last calling card on life. Okay. So I'm moving along now in my pilgrimage. I meet people. I make friends. I lose friends. Sometimes you get so excited about something on your path, you can't wait to share it with your friends, and all your friends, they repel you for it. It happened to me. I was born and raised in Chicago. And I knew if I could drive in that city, I could drive in any city in the world. And when I met Swami Rama, it was near the beginning of the fall. We were playing touch football. These were guys I grew up with. We went to the bars. We chased the girls. We were everywhere in Chicago together. And suddenly I was so excited to share with them, I found yoga. You got to meet this guy. Yeah. He doesn't speak real clear English, but he's a neat guy. You know, his name's Swami Rama. And all of a sudden, they turned on me. And I looked at him. What's wrong? I'm still the same guy. To them, I was not. And they even got mean. When they got mean, I decided it's time to go on. And so it was lonely for a while until I met kindred spirits on the path. And that's the way it happens sometimes. You will have to let go of certain things that you think are important, but they are not that important anymore. You don't have to, disparage. You say, hey, it's time to move on. Okay. I didn't want to lose them. I wanted to take them with me. But they didn't want any part of it. Okay. So I respect their choices. And even if they didn't respect mine, doesn't matter. So it often happens that way. We can't always estimate and assume that it's always going to be full of roses and joy. The path has struggles because there's a hidden axiom. Once you begin to take yourself seriously on the path towards an aim, immediately you're going to meet opposition because you're going to be tested. This is not sadistic. This is just the way it is because you carry old habits, old ways of thinking, old kinds of emotions, and you assume you can bring them all with you. You can't. You have to put many of them aside. You have to clean the house, get rid of the stuff. I know none of you ever, have full basements or attics like that. No, of course not. You got the attic up here, and the basement down here. You've got to clean up the house. Sometimes it's painful for a while. What are you doing? You're writing a story. Your story. It's unique. Each one of you could write a book about your life. Look at all the unexpected things that have happened. What brought you here? If I interviewed you 5 years ago, do you think you'd be here today? Did you possibly predict you'd be here today? I don't think so. It's hard to even calculate all the marvelous steps that have come in. At times we thought we were losing. At times we thought we were being set back, and yet we're here today. You enjoyed this weekend. Many times our stories, though, we have to recall, sometimes they get in the way of what we're trying to write today. Sometimes some of the past episodes that were very important in our life are actually weighing us down, are retarding our progress, and we don't know it until something happens to remind us we may have to look at this a different way. One day, an elder gentleman came to my office when I was in London. I was on the medical faculty there at the University of London. He sat down and he told me that he was having nightmares. Nightmares that were so intense he would wake up in a cold sweat and his heart would be beating close to 160. For a man his age, that was not good. We continued. I listened. He spoke. This went on for about an hour. He was a war hero in World War II. He was incarcerated by the Japanese in Burma. He was the architect of the bridge over the River Kwai. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Huh? There was an effort by the Japanese military to build a railroad from one side of Burma all the way across. They involved thousands and thousands of Allied soldiers who were subjected to all kinds of cruelties and malnutrition. One body was replaced by another as it fell along the road. He survived for 3 years. Now, can you imagine what you'd have to do to your own emotions, your own thinking, your own values, in order to survive under those circumstances? You didn't have many options. You couldn't complain, you didn't have enough smoke breaks. It just wasn't possible. He came out a war hero. And now, in his dreams, he thought he was back there. Because in order to get to where he was, he had to suppress. You can't take the full impact of cruelty all the time. So for him to survive, he simply had to sit on those emotions. And now they were coming up. Why? Because his body wanted him to clean it up. His mind wanted him to clean up the emotions. But he didn't know that. And so he spoke. And he gradually began to see that memories carry consequences. And perhaps if we could change the approach to our memory, we can't deny it. It's happened. But do we always have to endorse it the same way? So what he did, he looked upon his mind as a theater. And he would show past movies. And he would see himself as he was lying in the bed, watching the movie of his painful life 40 years earlier. And you know as well as I do that if you can watch your pain, the volume goes down. And there's a separation, huh? He didn't have to embrace it. He didn't have to identify with it. But he simply witnessed it. And he maintained diaphragmatic breathing all the way along. The breath stabilized him so he could watch the movie. And he called me up after 3 weeks and says, "It's getting better. I don't feel so caught up anymore." I said, "Keep going." And he called me 2 months later. He said, "They're gone. And by the way, you were in the movie with me." I said, "Did we have popcorn?" Okay. Look what happened. He took his energy. He changed it. He didn't take drugs. He didn't want that. He didn't want to be anesthetized. He wanted to move on. He wanted to recognize what had happened for what it was and say, "I don't have to identify with it." Key point. Don't identify with your past to the point where it holds you back. Use it, but don't identify with it. Very important. Many of you are here tonight because you have given up things. I hope you think it's worth it. You may even have offended people. It happens. Huh? A friend of mine out in Wyoming called me one night. And she said, "Justin, I've seen the doctor recently. He examined my breasts. There are nodules in both of them. He doesn't want to cut anything. He just wants to wait a little. What can I do?" And so she sat down and she revisited her body, stabilizing herself with the breathing again. She began to picture her body slowly reducing the diameter of those nodules. She began to see them shrinking. She began to transform her appreciation for what she had, not by identifying with it, but by acknowledging it just sufficiently so she could say, if the body produced it, it can take it back. She went to see the doctor 2 weeks later, and he says, "You're getting smaller. Let's wait." They waited. She didn't say anything. She came back 2 weeks later, and he says, "They're half of what they used to be. Just keep doing whatever you're doing." She called me 2 months later. They were gone. Again, she took life in her hands. For whatever reason, they were there. That was not important. What was important, she knew how to deal with them. We don't always know why things happen to us. We can't always expect the best of everything. 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine called me up and says, "You won't believe what happened." I said, "What happened?" "Well, I've been having digestion problems, and it's only in one side of my tummy." "Uh-huh. And I've been tired of the pain, and I don't want to just take, Advil and stuff like that to deal with it." "Yeah." So I sat down, and I began to breathe. I said, "Wonderful. Keep it up." No, I got real quiet. "Yeah." I went inside, and I presumed I was looking inside my chest. "Uh-huh. What'd you see?" Well, I as best I could imagine, I saw my tummy and my lungs, but I kept, for some reason or other, I felt as if I was being led on almost. Something said, "Keep getting stiller, get stiller." And as I got stiller, my awareness, it seemed, the parameter of my awareness expanded so that I was kind of encircling my sore tummy. "Yeah." And then the idea occurred to me, maybe if I breathe in a regulated pattern, what a concept, that something might benefit. And as I continued to breathe, the pain went away. I said, "No." It never came back, he told me. He didn't have to take pills. He didn't have to take aspirin. Instead, he took himself. We who lived in concentration camps can remember. Oh, yes, we can. World War II, Poland, Auschwitz. And there are always choices to make. Every day, every hour, offered the opportunity to make a decision. A decision which determined whether you would or would not submit to those powers which threaten to rob you of your very self, your inner freedom, which determined whether or not you would become the plaything of circumstance, renouncing freedom and dignity to become molded into the form of the typical inmate. Woe to him who saw no more sense in his life, no aim, no purpose, and therefore no point in carrying on. He was soon lost. The typical reply with which such a man rejected all encouraging arguments was, I have nothing to expect from life anymore. Notice, I have nothing to expect from life. Hold on to that, please. What sort of answer can one give to that? What was really needed was a fundamental change in our attitude towards life. This is from the prisoner. His name happened to be Viktor Frankl. We had to learn ourselves, and furthermore, we had to teach the despairing men that it did not really matter what we expected from life, but rather what life expected from us. That's yoga. We needed to stop asking about the meaning of life and instead to think of ourselves as those who were being questioned by life. Daily, hourly. Our answer must consist not in talk and mediation, but in right action and in right conduct. Life ultimately means taking the responsibility to find the right answer to its problems and to fulfill the task which it constantly sets for each individual. And he survived Auschwitz. When you dispatch a desire to the unconscious, it takes up residence there in a living manner. Your memories are not dead. They live. They live because you hold on to them, because you give them new life by rehearsing them, recasting them over and again, taking them as part of your essential biography, instead of seeing it as an episode in life in which you just learned about life. These men and women who survived with him, as he interviewed them, Viktor Frankl, to them, they came always up with the question that they wanted to answer, what do I owe life? Not what could life give to me? You, as yogis, you're on a journey to self-discovery. You owe it to life to make that discovery. Because in making that discovery, you achieve what you really want as a human being. Not necessarily as a stockbroker or as a baker or a candlestick maker, but as a human being. That's your fundamental identity. The others are temporary and necessary roles. Enjoy them, explore them, but they're not the real identity you're looking for. You're called to something much more. You're called to remember that the last of human freedoms is the ability to choose one's attitude in any circumstance. Any circumstance. It's not arbitrary. Rather, you are responsible for life, your life and others. You instinctively know that, but you sometimes forget it. In one sense, we can't really pursue happiness. Happiness ensues. When we live life the way we're supposed to, happiness will show up on our doorstep. If we try to search for it, we again have a very limited idea of what we're looking for, and we may get very discouraged even if we attain it. The boys at Enron thought they were attaining it, and you saw what happened. To live in the past is meaningless because there's no life there. It's over. It's gone. Not retrospective, which deadens, but prospective. We live in the present with an eye to the future. That's our nature. That's what compels us as living beings, as creatures in time and space. We're searching for the fulfillment. And it will not be in time and space, but that should not disappoint us. So, what are some of the guidelines we could use on this path? All right. You have to prepare yourself. Without preparation, you'll never know what the taste of happiness is all about. Happiness does not fall off a tree. You do not stumble upon it, and Oprah can't offer it to you. That preparation is the skills, the techniques, the devotion that stirs you in mind and heart. It's what we call the asceticism. Oh, that's a scary word from the Greek. All it means is self-training. Or put it another way, self-care practices. That's what discipline is. It's the acknowledgement of my nature as a creative, dynamic being growing into self-awareness. That's simple. So on the way, let's cite a couple of things we'll need. 1, reflect, protect, and then act. Notice the sequence. First, reflect. What's going on? What's involved here? What's at stake? Then protect. Always protect first. Then act. You lose the middle one, you're going to get hurt. Because you're living in a world that's highly competitive. It's not cooperative, it's competitive. They want to see you lose, so they gain ahead. That's why you need reflect, protect, and act. 2, if something is recurring in your life that you don't understand, whether it's a dream or it's an event, or you seem to be falling into the same routine, you're not really that thrilled about it, then it's time to get fascinated with it. Examine it. What's going on here? Yeah, hey, step back, take a look at it. Don't make moral judgments, just look at it. Become an LSI, a life scene investigator. Thank you, Grissom. And Mac. Then do an experiment occasionally on yourself. Hey, you don't even have to tell your spouse maybe. Be careful though. What kind of an experiment? Let me tell you a story. One day, Swamiji was walking along the Ganges with his master. Oh, what a man. And as they were walking along, a very respectable-looking Indian gentleman, middle-aged, came up to them and made his pranams. And Swami says, "What is it?" "Well, I see, sir, that both of you are holy men." He could tell they were Swamis. Of course, Swami Rama just smiled and accepted it all at that time. But anyway, his master said, "Step aside, son, I want to talk to him." "What is it you want, sir?" "Well, I've been wondering. I've got a good job with the government. I don't always like what's going on, but, I've got a family and I got a daughter. But, I know there's something more in life. Could you suggest something I could do to go further in understanding the significance of life?" The master said, "Yes. Speak only the truth for 30 days. He thanked him and he walked away. He didn't say, "How about a little more?" No. He just thanked him and walked away. And Swamiji and his master walked on. Back at the office where he worked, it happened to be the Immigration Bureau. Not only people had to come through them, but all kinds of packages and things that were sent by companies from other countries had to come through, and they had to put duties on and tariffs and so on. And everybody there was taking a little under the table, And they had some interesting white powder coming through. You can use your imagination. And they thought, "Oh boy, we're really going to clean up on this one." And he didn't want any part of it. Couldn't do anything because he's just one of the guys, but he didn't participate. He didn't want it. He told them, "Leave me out of this. I'm not interested." And he just kept himself busy doing his duties. First week goes by. Second week, an inspector general from the capital comes to make an inspection. They've heard rumors about some smuggling going on, so they want to have an inspection, and they're going to interrogate everyone individually. He just happened to be called first. "Sit down, sir. How long have you been with the company?" "Mm-hmm. What are your duties?" "Uh-huh. Are you familiar with everybody here?" "Yes." "Is everybody following the rules?" "No." "No? What rules aren't they following?" "Well, they're smuggling." "Who's smuggling?" "Uh-huh. How long has this been going on?" Blah, blah, blah. He said he'd tell the truth. "Well, thank you very much, sir." He had a big file by this time. In the meantime, while he was talking to the inspector general, one of them was eavesdropping. Went back and told the rest of the guys, "He's snitching on us." They got together to decide, he's our ringleader. We'll put all the blame on him. We'll say he forced us. We'll all have the same story, so he'll get it. So when the inspector general began to interrogate the others, they all came up with a similar story. "Oh, he's the guy, huh? Pretty slippery guy. He had me fooled. I didn't realize that." So he gets indicted, all for telling the truth. And he goes to jail. His court date is 2 weeks later. That's the end of the 30 days. So he's in jail, and he's thinking, "Oh my God." Even the lawyers don't want to come near him. They think, "You don't stand a chance, buddy. You've got 4 witnesses against you. They've got all the data and everything else. You're guilty." "No, I'm not. I'm innocent." Yeah, we've heard that before. His wife comes to him and scolds him. "You fool. Why didn't you take some of the cut? We could have used it." "But darling," "Don't darling me. I'm suing you. I'm leaving." She divorced him. His daughter came, who he loved above everything else, 18-year-old. She said, "Daddy, I'm ashamed of you. I'm so embarrassed by your conduct. Everybody does it. Why couldn't you?" And she walked out on him. Now he's lost the wife. He's lost his job. He's been branded a crook, all for telling the truth. Court date. Final day, the 30th day. They bring all the 4 witnesses against him. The judge is listening. Finally, they put him on the stand. His lawyer said, the only chance we've got to mitigate the circumstances is you got to tell your story. Tell your story. He was up there and he said, well, actually it goes way back before the episode. And the lawyer said, what do you mean by that? Well, I was walking along the beach one day, Ganges, and there were 2 holy men I met. And the elder of the 2 said to me, if I really wanted to progress in a spiritual path, I should tell the truth for 30 days. Now, for some reason, the judge turned to him and said, excuse me, sir, would you describe that man to me? And as he described him, the judge says, let's take a time out. I call a recess for 15 minutes. You come into my chambers. He said, sit down. Tell me more about him. What did the boy look like? That's my guru. If that's what he told you, I understand now. He called in 2 of his detectives. He said, go back to the company, recheck everything. Immediately today. They did, and they found where the evidence was being stashed away. The judge knew he was being framed. When they came back into the court, the judge said, I declare the case null and void, and I indict you for. Ah! And he walks out of the court. You're a free man, sir. He walks out. There's the wife running up. Oh, darling. Because at the same time she walked up, somebody came up and handed him a telegram. He opened it up. You have just won the lottery. 2 million rupees. Of course, his wife said, I didn't really mean anything I said to you. And of course, the daughter said the same thing. And he stood there. He looked at the money, he looked at them, and he said to himself, if this is what I get for telling the truth, what else can I do? And he said goodbye. He resigned his job, gave the money to his wife, and he took off looking for the old man and his son. I can't guarantee you'll win the lottery after today, gang. But there are episodes that are going to happen in your life over which you could never predict it. And you're going to be tested right then and there. Where are your values? How much integrity do you have when all's against you? It can happen, and it often happens to those who are seriously on the path. That's why we have these stories, to remind us. We're more than our careers. We're even more than our families. Each of you are so unique. If you could see yourself the way the sages see you, you would be astonished. You're here because they want you here. This is not just your choice. They look for, hey, we got a live one here. Let's encourage her. Let's get this guy going. Let's see what we can do. You're their challenge. All they ask is you show up and do your practice. That's all. They'll do the rest. They'll look after you in ways you couldn't even dream. Doesn't mean you won't feel pain, disappointment. Yes, you will, but you'll be able to survive. You'll see it in context for what it is. And along those lines, I'd like to read you this, if I may. It's hopefully a summary of what we've all experienced, of what we've looked for, of the trials and tribulations we've had to endure even to get this far, and the worries we may still be carrying so we don't know how to resolve them yet, but you will. I remember the morning I stood and looked at the paths that ran into the woods, paths that were twisted or bumpy or steep, woods that were ominous, shadowed and deep. I knew I must follow one path where it led, if I could. I remember a flash and a flicker of blue, my own voice calling out, "Who are you? Who are you?" In the shadows I saw a mere hint of a flame. I cried out, "Please don't hide. Please tell me your name." But as soon as I glimpsed the one hiding, I knew that I knew. I remember resistance, don't we all? Uneasiness and fear. The impulse to run, the urge to draw near. I gazed at this other to whom I'd been led, and I took a step forward in spite of my dread. Then we danced into friendship, a dance that made doubt disappear. That will happen. In the hidden recesses of your heart when you meditate. I remember the rapture of freedom and flight, our sailing together up into the light, leaving the work and the struggle below, leaving the need to discover and know. All was well as we flew without thought on the clouds of delight. I remember the moment when joy turned to tears at the words of this friend who had banished my fears. You've found all the fullness this path can bestow. You'll find more in a journey of emptiness now. If your heart takes the path of pure trusting, the way will be clear. You have to trust the inner voice in you. Not what I say or anyone says. Your voice. It's in you. It's your friend. That's who this person met. Dance with that voice. And one day it'll say, you must learn to let everything go, but still you'll be able to enjoy even the snow. If you're from Minnesota. I remember the weight of my darkness, the night, when I stumbled along in confusion and flight. The signs I've relied on were suddenly gone. Alone and unseeing, how could I go on? Believe me, Bill understands this. We sit in the darkness, month after month after month. There's no consolation, you just sit. The signs I've relied upon were suddenly gone. Alone and unseeing, how could I go on? How could I find the way leading me back to the light? I remember the moment I chose to be still. You chose to be still. This is so important. Don't treat meditation as an automatic thing. Choose to be still. Choose to take those techniques that enable you to be still. And then let the stillness flower in the dark, of course. Letting go of my thinking and worry until the depths of my being awakened, aware of a radiant fullness awaiting me there, as I learned that myself was at one with the wellspring of all. It's coming. This is the fullness, nothing amiss. This is the cosmic and life-giving kiss. Only light, only joy, only good, only one. From here the beginning once more is begun. Here there is only the one, and the oneness is bliss. It's coming. Now I see everything able to be. Sun, moon, and starshine, river and tree. Everything true to itself and unique. Daylight and darkness, the strong and the weak. Each is itself in its goodness and worthiness and free. You will know the totality of reality, and you will bask in it. Today is the place where the conference began. Another year has passed. Our journey is richer, though leaner and light. You are sturdier and truer, for your heart and eyes are clearer and bright. Welcome freedom, and thanks for coming.